Good evening, and I would like to call to order the February 1st, 2010 meeting of the Los Gatos Town Council. And if I could please have the roll.
Councilmember Mike Wasserman.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Rice.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector.
Here.
Vice Mayor Joe Krasinski.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Diane McNutt.
Here. As you know, at each council meeting we have a program called the Future Leaders Program, where we select one young person in our community to come forward and to be introduced to you and to help us out on the Pledge of Allegiance. And this evening we have the pleasure of having Dylan Dobler here, who's a 5th grader at Alta Vista. And let me tell you a couple of things about Dylan before we have him, I meet him down here at the ceremonial podium. He is class president. He is captain of the soccer team. He does conflict management for younger grades, and we might need his services later this evening. He's on the safety patrol. He is in the Gifted and Talented program, also known as GATE. He's in Playground Buddies, which teams up with kids at recess to help them learn to socialize and avoid bullying. He holds the school record for laps walked or run at annual fundraising walkathon. That was 26 miles in 6 hours. He plays the saxophone, he sings in the school glee club, and he climbed to the top of Half Dome last summer at age 10. Okay, we feel like applauding for him already, and he hasn't even done his thing for us yet. So, Dylan, if you will meet me down here, and council and audience, if you would please stand for the pledge.
Ready? So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we can applaud. And Dylan, we have a little gift for you, and I think the other council members would like to shake your hand. We also have some commendations to hand out this evening to some of our commissioners who are completing terms of office and volunteering and helping out the town for commissions. So I'd like to have them all come forward, and then I'm going to say a few words. So Mary Ann Hamilton from the Arts Commission, and Valerie Hopkins from the Arts Commission, and Peggy Dallas from Architectural Standards, and Bruce Enton from Transportation and Parking. We have some other folks who also will be getting commendations who are not able to be with us tonight. And instead of reading each of these commendations, which basically say the same thing, which is, you're wonderful, thank you for your service, blah, 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 I wanted to talk about how valuable the commissions are to the town of Los Gatos and to the work that we do as a council and to the whole concept of civic engagement. We are 5 people on the council, and we try to talk to as many people as possible and be out and about. But the commissions are really valuable to us in extending our eyes and ears out into the community. So each of these commissioners has been a conduit of information out to the community about town policies, town activities. They've been a conduit of information and ideas back to the council on what the community thinks, what they value, what their priorities are. Each of them has spent a lot of hours in meetings, some exciting, some not so much. The arts commissioners spent a lot of hours in actual hands-on putting together fabulous programs like Music in the Plaza, now Music in the Park. And we really can't operate in our type of democracy that we do in our small town government without them. And so with that kind of general responsibility, I think, and the way they have fulfilled that responsibility, I think that we owe them a big round of applause. So as I give you your commendation, and I'm not touching you because clearly I am not well tonight, I want to give you an opportunity to say a few words if you have any. So Bruce, for Transportation and Parking, is there anything you'd like to share with the community?
Just that transportation and parking is a big issue in the town, and I was also chair of the bicycle committee and a representative of the town on the VTA Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and it gave me great pleasure to bring something back to the town that we all love so much. So thank you.
And Peggy Dallas from Architectural Standards.
Thank you. I just want to thank the town for giving me the opportunity to serve. And I highly recommend it to anybody else who wants to do a little something for the town. You get a lot more out of it than you have to put into it. And I highly recommend everybody sign up for a commission sometime. Thank you.
And we thank you for that plug. And Marianne Hamilton from Arts Commission.
I just want to say it's been a huge pleasure to be a part of the Arts Commission and Arts and Cultural Commission now for the last 6 years, especially working on Music in the Park. And I'd like you all to know that there is still sponsorship availability. So if you'd like to sponsor Music in the Park this summer, by all means, please give us a call.
And last but most certainly not least, Valerie Hopkins, the kingpin here of the Arts Commission.
Thank you so much. It's just been a pleasure and a privilege to work on the Music in the Park for the last 6 years. But I have to say, compared to Dylan, who did the Pledge of Allegiance, we're just chopped liver. I mean, really, he was amazing. But we're still at it this year, and we hope to see you all out there. It's been great. Thank you so much, and for all your support.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the closed sessions report. Mr. Martello?
Yes, I wanted to announce that on January 26th, the council met in closed session on their scheduled agenda item, which was employee performance evaluation. They also concluded that item this evening along with their other closed session items except for the Ditto's Lane, and there was no action taken.
Thank you. Next, we have council and manager matters, and we'll start with council matters. Does council have anything to report? No. Manager, I believe you have several items.
Mayor, members of the council, 3 items. First, the good news. Last Friday night here in the chambers, the Friends of the Library hosted one of their periodic programs with 90 attendees on the 10-minute plays. And it was a very successful evening for those who came, and we thank the Friends of the Library for their ongoing support for our library and literary services for Los Gatos. More difficult, we had 2 acts of vandalism and graffiti at Blossom Hill Park that extended to Blossom Hill School. Our staff responded immediately to paint over that graffiti, and we, as always, ask for any residents who saw any of that activity to notify our Parks and Public Works or Police Department, as it is a criminal act. On a much more tragic and sad note, the town has suffered 2 days of back-to-back traffic fatalities, one on the boulevard right near Calvary Church and the other one today on Lark Road near 17. Both of these have led to arrests for vehicular manslaughter, given it was not the driver that was injured or killed, it was another victim. And these are both tragic circumstances, and what it highlights is the need to emphasize for all our residents safe driving and safe streets, particularly with children on bikes. And I'm pleased to report that our police department has applied for a grant from the federal and state government to enhance our traffic enforcement capability in the community for the next year. And it's also timely to have J.R. Langer here, Sergeant Langer, for the Did You Know on about our helmet safety program for our youth on bikes. So, Sergeant Langer, if you could share with us, Did You Know?
Thank you. Madam Mayor, council members, community members. About 2 years ago, the Los Gatos Montesino Police Department began to participate in a countywide juvenile diversion program, a traffic diversion program. And the diversion program, which is funded by a grant applied for by the county health department, focuses on teaching kids and their parents about traffic safety, and especially in regards to the importance of wearing a helmet when skateboarding or bicycling. As a result of our department's participation, our contacts with kids not wearing their helmets when bicycling and skateboarding have increased. And unfortunately, even though our intent was to keep our community's kids safe, and by attending the class, there's no fine for the citation, and we do receive a free bicycle helmet, the contacts were not as positive as our department wished. We wanted to reward safe behavior to the kids wearing their helmets, and this led to the creation of the Helmets Award Program. With assistance from the Los Gatos Montesino Police Foundation, discount coupons are purchased from local businesses, and those coupons are passed along to our officers who have the opportunity to reward kids in our community who wear their helmets. It's been a great way to promote helmet safety, especially when an officer contacts a group of kids and some are wearing their helmets and others are not. It really makes a huge impact on both parties when someone's walking away with a ticket and someone's walking away with a free ice cream coupon. The one thing about the Helmet Awards program is that it operates solely on a donation basis. And if anyone is interested in learning more about the program or making a donation, they can contact me at the police department or go to the Los Gatos Montesino Police Foundation website or leave a message at the foundation's voicemail. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Sergeant. Mr. Larson, are you completed then? Okay. And I want to reiterate, I'm sorry, he's not done.
I did remember one additional item. There was another incident in San Jose a week and a half ago regarding street trees, and I did want to clarify for the council's information that by town ordinance, the town is responsible for the regular maintenance of street trees in the town of Los Gatos. For example, last week upon neighborhood concerns, we did a special pruning of a couple trees on Carlton Avenue. And just at your last meeting, you approved a contract for our ongoing regular street tree maintenance program that will be starting in 2 weeks, as it usually does at this time of year. So different circumstance in Los Gatos than San Jose, and we try to deal with problematic trees as we find them.
Thank you. And I did want to reiterate Mr. Larson's comment on the horrific accidents, and we do extend our sympathies to all of the parties involved and to remind everybody to slow down and be patient. There's nothing that fast that you need to get to put yourself and other people in harm's way. Now we have the consent items, and I will ask council if there is any consent item they want to have pulled. Mr. Przinsky.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not interested in pulling the item, but I want a clarification. This is item number 4, the ordinance that prohibits roadway solicitations. And we are finally at the point where we can ask our police department to intervene in this behavior that is ostensibly unsafe and has caused difficulties within our community. But by approving this tonight, there's a 30-day wait period, and my concern is that we have some methodology to intervene prior to the end of that 30 days. And is there any possibility of intervention at this time? And I'd ask the attorney to respond.
Thank you. Yes, typically before ordinances like this, especially new ordinances, are enforced, there's a public education program with people that might be affected. And I've spoken to the city manager, and we'll speak to the police chief about starting a public information campaign during this 30-day period so that people know there's a law passed that they have to get out of the public right away when they're soliciting, and that they'll be subject to citation if they don't once it takes effect. So we'll ask the police chief to use that use those 30 days wisely.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Spector?
I did not want to pull anything from the consent calendar, but just to note, since I was one of the people who had raised the issue that on agenda item 5, we have a desk item that clarifies the PD ordinance.
We have a desk item tonight? Okay.
Yes, we do.
I can explain it if you want. Basically, a desk item, Councilmember Spector pointed out that there was language in the item in your binder that didn't address clearly your decision on the left turn lane and the direction of traffic in the back alley. And there was a planning section or planning provision number 13 that did, but what the desk item does is correlates or cross-references, if you will, number 13 and number 50, so it's very clear, and that also tracks with the permit conditions and the mitigation measures. So that's just for clarification.
Okay, Council, I'm actually, since some of us, like me, and possibly others, did not receive desk item, did everyone else receive the desk item? No. I'm going to say let's pull number 5, and then we'll have opportunity perhaps during the course of the evening or in a quick break to review this, and then we'll take up number 5 at the end of other business so that we know actually all of the details before we act on it. Okay, so we're pulling consent item number 5, which is regarding the Safeway project. Is there anyone in the public who wants to pull any other consent item? Mr. Davis? Number 3, the fiscal reports. That also will be held at the end of the, after public hearings at the end of other business. Anyone else? Motion to approve the remaining consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Now we move on to verbal communications. This is a time during the meeting where anyone in the public can speak to an item not on tonight's agenda. I have one card and one on its way. So let's start with Jonathan Knowles, and then we'll have Mr. Davis come up. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. I'd like to say thanks on behalf of Los Gatos Music and Arts for their commendations that you gave to Valerie Hopkins and Marianne Hamilton tonight. And just wanted to express to you, and by way of you to our community, that in many communities where people finish their terms in something like this, they might go into a bit of a retirement or slow down a bit. But as I think you'll know, and if not, I'll remind you, both Valerie and Marianne have joined the board of directors of Los Gatos Music and Arts, and will continue to serve by working on Music in the Park as part of that organization, which also does Jazz in the Plaza. We're very fortunate indeed to have such folks like that just keep going, doing such a terrific job regardless of what infrastructure they tend to work in and for. And I too would encourage other folks, as a Arts and Cultural Commission member myself, to think about how they might serve in our community, either on our commissions or in some of the volunteer organizations that we have in our town. So thank you very much. And then I will say, as a member of the board of the Los Gatos Mountain Police, Sereno Police Foundation, that we're thrilled to be funding programs like the Safe Helmet Program. And JR did not, Sergeant Langer did not tell people this, but of course the kids in Los Gatos are actually known to seek out the police cars in town and drive by them pointing at their helmet as they go by to get their little ice cream. So what a community we have. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Mr. Davis, and as he's approaching the microphone, if there's anyone else who wants to speak under verbal communication, this would be a good time to turn in your card.
Well, I thought I was going to have a drum roll for you. My little sound machine. I pressed the button and nothing happened. Woo! So I'll get a new battery and I'll be back in 2 weeks. Okay? Jackie, unless you got a battery for a sound machine. No. How about a smile? Anyway, smile. There's a smile. Okay. First off, I understand Mr. Bud Lortz, formerly employed at the town of Los Gatos, is now working again for the town of Los Gatos. Okay? Fully retired, complete with all the complete enhancements that retirement means in Los Gatos, and yet he's back working again, pulling a new salary. Now, I thought that was called double dipping. But I stopped and thought about it, and I understand the work he's doing is on the redevelopment agency solely. And thinking about it, probably a pretty nicely qualified man for that job, okay? So I'm not going to raise any issue about double dipping. I respect the town manager's decision to hire him back for that particular work. But, Mr. Manager, that particular work only or an equivalent. Never again in the planning department of Los Gatos. Please. Lastly, the library. I can't believe you 5 elected officials would approve the architecture of this library. To me, it says nothing about the spirit and the letter of Los Gatos, the natural beauty of the mountain, okay? The beauty of our civic center. There are no community values involved, to me, in the ugly shoebox with glass design, okay? And it's got bulb outs to boot, which look like warts. This has got to be the ugliest civic library that has ever been proposed, in my opinion. An eyesore of the first magnitude. And please, when it's built so ugly, put your names up there so they'll know who to blame over the ages.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We now move to public hearings, and we have agenda item number 9, which is referring to annexation application AN08-003, referring to approximately 63.7 acres of a territory known as Arnerick Number 2. We will begin with a staff report by Jennifer Savage, and if you do want to speak on this item, please submit a card. I have a couple already. Ms. Savage.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This annexation encompasses most of the remaining unincorporated land along the Arnerick, Wagner, and Hicks roads within the urban service area. The proposed annexation consists of 7 properties identified by 10 parcel numbers, comprising approximately 63.7 acres. The subject annexation is uninhabited because the area contains less than 12 registered voters. This means the subject annexation is a non-100% consent annexation. A public hearing is required to hold the protest proceedings for a non-100% consent annexation. On December 1st, 2009, the council initiated the subject annexation. Tonight's public hearing serves as the protest proceeding. And I apologize, that's slightly hard to read on the overhead. Any property owner of the affected territory must submit written statements of protest by the conclusion of the protest proceeding. If no written protests are filed, the council would adopt the annexation. If written protests are received, the council shall determine the value of the written protest filed and not withdrawn within 30 days of the protest proceedings. This determination of value may be made tonight after the public protest proceeding. If the value of the protest is less than 50%, then the council shall order the annexation. If the value of protest is 50% or more, the council shall abandon the annexation. Staff has knowledge of 3 property owners that do not consent to the subject annexation. The percent value of the expected protest is 30.9%. Staff met with LAFCO on multiple occasions regarding the proposed annexation. It is LAFCO's opinion that the proposed annexation does not create an island. Staff recommends that the Town Council hold the protest proceedings, make the value determination of written public protest, and approve the annexation. This concludes staff presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you very much. We have no desk items on this tonight. Is that correct? I'm just feeling the need to check. Correct. Okay. Council, do you have any questions of staff before we open it to the public? Okay, then I will open the public hearing, and we do have several cards. So in no particular order, we have Mike Kokinos.
Start.
Okay, and as usual, you have up to 3 minutes. Okay.
So just one thing for clarification, to take it to the next slide. Which one do I use? All right, Mayor McNutt, council members, good evening. Staff recommendation on the proposed annexation known as Arnerich 2 is a vote supporting the annexation. The same report, however, is replete with errors and omissions which, when brought to your attention, will require you to rethink the recommendations and reconsider your vote. I call to your attention to the notification document as sent as part of the annexation proceedings. Take a close look at the parcel numbers on the sheet. What you'll find is that one APN number is missing, and that's the APN number on the Franklin Hirsch property, which is 006. The one that's 005 is on the sheet. So what does this mean? First, the proposed annexation creates a situation whereby only 1/2 of the Franklin Hirsch property is contemplated in the annexation. Hence, the one will remain in the county, and you'll end up with a split jurisdiction. Half the parcel will be in town, the other half will be in unincorporated county. And obviously, that's a difficult situation when it comes to the delivery of services. The two parties, 005 and 006, you'll see, both belong to the Franklin Hirsch people. Here's the tax record from the county assessor's office. 17491 is 006, and 17491 is 005. The other thing that I call to your attention is that staff report, you'll see in your documents there, actually include parcel 019, which is not as part of the notification. So the APN is missing from the notification sheets. Take a look to the lower right-hand corner, and you'll see the parcels. 005 is the one that's shading now. 006 is the one that's shading there. You have both parcels belonging to the same, both APNs belonging to the same family and the same contiguous parcel. To do this annexation creates split jurisdiction. Now, assume that one of the parcels, the staff will come back and say, is perhaps potentially in the town of San Jose, 006. What happens now is the council is in a very difficult position because now they're going to again create a parcel, a split jurisdiction. So will it depend on which door the criminal comes in, as to you calling San Jose or Los Gatos? That's the question. How do you deliver services? Finally, there's a violation in the LAFCO's road annexation policies for how that road is being annexed on Hicks Road. So again, I wanted to bring that to your attention. You'll see, this is the staff report that was presented to us at the last meeting. That's the parcel that's shady. If you look below, it says proposed annexation, and it shows it there as well. So there's a parcel in, or is the parcel out? Again, a lot of confusion right here, and I think staff really needs to take a look at that. Finally, there's this annexation of the Williamson Act parcels. The parcels are still in Williamson Act until 2016. There's 2 parcels.
Thank you, Mr. Kokinos. Time does go quickly. Let's see if anyone has any questions for you.
Certainly.
Mr. Glasserman?
Thank you. On that slide, attachments 7 and 8, because you spoke so quickly.
I'm sorry.
If you could just slow down and summarize the point that you're making with this slide so that I can follow the legends and all the rest.
Certainly. Okay. This was the documents that was presented at the last city council meeting. And if you recall, Councilmember Rice stood up and made a point that he needed to potentially recuse himself from this conversation because his cousin, Mr. Lincoln, was the owner of the parcel in the upper left-hand corner that's hashed. The site map I point out to you is where it says proposed annexation, so that's where it's proposed annexation, to the upper left-hand corner.
Sorry, you can't leave the microphone. We can't hear you. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, is it okay if he takes the microphone?
Certainly.
Okay.
You can pull the microphone off.
Okay. So this was the staff report that we received that was distributed to council, and Councilmember Rice asked the city attorney, Mr. Korb, if he needed to recuse himself because of the relationship and the potential conflict of interest here. And where the staff said, no, it wasn't part of the annexation proceedings, well, it clearly is here, and hence the reason why Mr. Lincoln brought it to everybody's attention. So again, the question I have is it in or is it out? Because it's just confusing. Because you have an APN number that's not there, but you see the map here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. Spector?
Thank you. You do talk fast, and so what is the significance to you of whether it is in or whether it is out?
Well, the significance, Ms. Spector, here is that as a formal document, I would hope and I would expect and I would think that the council wants to have good data, because if you make an annexation hearing and the annexation hearing includes a parcel that's not there or doesn't include a parcel that's supposed to be there, it creates a potential significant conflict for the landowner as well as for the town.
One other question.
Certainly.
Yes.
Under the staff report, it states that the issue that we are focusing upon tonight is the valuation, whether or not the assessed value of the contesting landowners is greater than 50%. Staff concludes that it is not, and so therefore the annexation can be approved. How do you weigh in on that issue?
I have in my hand recent rescissions from some of the previous landowners who would ask me to give this to council as part of their protest. It's up to the council at this point to go ahead, as per the document that Ms. Savage put up, now take in the 30 to 45 day period to actually go ahead and total up the value of the recently included rescissions. Because the revocations were to be submitted before end of the hearing tonight, if my understanding is correct.
Okay, Mr. Kokinos, if you can just hold a minute, and we need to move to the town attorney. How does he go about submitting this paperwork that represents other residents, supposedly?
May I ask you to do one follow-up
Sure.
question?
Certainly.
And so are you saying or indicating that these additional protests that you're submitting would therefore increase the assessed valuation in excess of 50%, and so that's something that we, the town, are going to have to consider?
Yes, I'm saying that what we have here are new revocation signatures, and so based on the fact that the numbers that were presented to council were inaccurate, we need to have the council review these.
Mr. Attorney, yes. No, I want to get a clarification on process here before we go any farther, because we also still have several speakers to hear from, and there aren't that many landowners involved. So should we Does he need to submit those now? Do we hear from other landowners? How do we process this?
Well, and do I understand that he has in his hand written protests from these landowners?
Yes, I have in my hand the written protests from these landowners. Yes, sir.
You can submit those, but I think we also have to ask staff. My understanding is what's attached to your resolution, that if this moving forward tonight, is a meets and bounds description and a map, not necessarily parcel numbers. The parcel numbers are listed in the noticing, so a question for staff is, have all the property owners been notified? And if there is assessor's parcel numbers need to be added, as long as those owners have been notified, it may not be a problem, but we need that answer, I think.
So perhaps we need to have those protests submitted to staff. They can look at them over while we continue with the public hearing?
Yes.
Does that sound like a game plan?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Kokinos, if there are no further questions of him, we'll have him submit that paperwork. Mr. Wasserman?
Thank you. Mayor, as a follow-up to Councilmember Spector's question, I wanted an answer to her question. Her question was, do those rescissions that you have in your hand bring the protest value over 50%? And you didn't say yes or no. I just need a yes or a no, please.
At the current time, we are very close. We're not there yet, but there are some outstandings that could potentially change that this evening.
Thank you.
Potentially.
And I believe that determination would be made not by a resident, but by staff.
Absolutely, that's correct, absolutely. I just have the documents, ma'am.
Mr. Rice?
Question for staff, if I may, about a point that the speaker brought up. That's the first time I've seen that map, and that would include a parcel that is not on any of the parcels that are in the staff report. So the property that he referenced owned by Mr. Lincoln, that is not a part of the annexation, is that correct?
That is correct, and I can clarify further if you'd wish.
Please.
Those exhibits that are up on the overhead were received in the staff report at the previous meeting, December 21st. The incorrect, excuse me, the incorrect inclusion of that parcel that he points out was stated and noticed at the hearing, and new exhibits were passed out.
Thank you. And if I may continue for one moment?
Yes.
Just to clarify and to restate for the record, Mr. Lincoln, who owns the parcel that we're discussing that is not part of that, is my cousin. And my question to Mr. Korb at the last meeting was whether or not the fact that he sent a letter in regarding the annexation would be something that I should take into account for recusing myself. Mr. Korb's question to me was whether or not I could render an appropriate judgment. I felt it wouldn't influence me adversely, and yes, I could render it a judgment. If his parcel was a part of this, I probably would recuse myself from a safety perspective, but I don't think that's going to affect the discussions or my deliberations on this. So I just wanted that into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. So, Mr. Kokinos, if you could give staff that paperwork that you have, that would be helpful, right?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay. Our next speaker is Lorraine Hirsch.
Thank you. Bear with me. I'm not feeling well this evening. Got up to come in. We own two parcels. They are contiguous. Only one is the subject of annexation, and we're disturbed by this. I'm not sure why. I brought my tax bills. They are both county, so far as I know, and I just don't know how we would deal with it if we have these two contiguous and related parcels. Obviously, we use them as one parcel. How we will deal with it, I mean, as you know, if it is a split jurisdiction, and so for that reason, I would ask that this be removed until you resolve the issue. Give us notice on, whether you want to bring in the second one or take us out, or whether you want to go ahead with a split jurisdiction. But it seems highly unfair to us. It makes everything very difficult. I don't know if you want my papers.
I think we just got copies of them. Mr. Kokinos, I guess, already gave copies of your tax bills to us.
Is there anything else you'd need to know to help you render a decision on this?
Let me ask council if they have any questions of you. Council, Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
Yes, Ms. Hirsch. Is it your desire to have both properties folded into this annexation?
No. Well, our number one desire would be not to have an annexation, but our if annexation is going to go forward, whatever happens, our least favorite option is to have a split jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Spector?
A question either of the speaker or of staff. We'll see where the answer comes from. First of all, does anyone from staff have a response to the speaker's position that there were 2 parcels and we did not allow for 2 parcels? And secondly, as a process question, is the staff going to be examining whether or not the assessed valuation exceeds the 50% or not, and how are we going to deal with that in the course of this hearing?
In terms of the first question, the map that you have was approved by the assessor and the county surveyor. There are 2 parcels, one of which they spoke of, and a second one which they did not mention that will have split jurisdiction. This was brought to our attention through the county surveyor, but as explained by the county surveyor, we cannot correct that through this annexation, and that issue has to be taken up with LAFCO by the individual property owners at a later date. In regards to the value, staff would be making note of the documents submitted by the property owner and addressing the value at a later time.
Other questions?
May I make just one other point? I just wanted to say it's also a little hard for us because we were just brought into this. This is not something we initiated. Whatever. Okay.
Understand. Thank you very much. Next speaker is John Lincoln.
Good evening. Thank you. Evidently, there was some confusion about the map earlier on, which was...
Could you move the microphone up just a little bit? Thank you.
Had a little confusion with regards to the map, and brought some concern to myself, and also the boundaries. I noticed looking at it that there's a proposed annexation boundary line and an existing town line, but they seem to overlap, so I'm curious to know which is which. If it's already been annexed, why is there so much confusion right now? And what caused my property to be put on there and now it's not? And in the future, what risk am I facing with regards to annexation? And I guess nobody can really answer that right now, can they?
Well, some might say that it's not a risk, it's a privilege, but...
Oh, no, don't misunderstand. We're in full support.
Okay.
It's kind of the way things are going on and how information is being given is some concern.
I understand, Mr. Lincoln. Let's see if council has any questions for you. And we do not. And some of the answers may unfold as this goes on. Thank you. Next speaker is Montgomery Kirsten.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members and the team here. I'm new to the neighborhood. I'm at the Hicks Road 17505 address. Mr. Pouet was my predecessor seller. I've just got really simple goals. Want to be a good citizen, want to be a good neighbor, and would like to build a house for my family on my 11-acre parcel. I really have a basic position that I support my property being annexed because I believe that bordering the town, it needs to be annexed. It's in the urban service district, so as I understand it in talking with staff, I would be required to be annexed, which is fine by me. I'd love to be in the town, but I surely respect my neighbors. Some of them wish to be in the town. Some feel strongly that they shouldn't be in the town, and I just don't want to dictate to my neighbors what they should do with their property. I just like to be myself annexed by the town. So that's sort of my simple position, and I appreciate having a few moments to articulate it.
Thank you. Wait just a moment, sir, and see if anyone has any questions of you. And we do not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Helen Pastorino.
Hi, Mayor, council members. My name is Helen Pastorino. I reside at 17501 Wagner Road in Los Gatos. And I'd like to address you this evening as a new private citizen of the town of Los Gatos. Not too long ago, I was a resident of the county of Santa Clara, but I was the original Honorich Road annexation that you approved for us last year. And I just wanted to come this evening to support the neighbors that wish to be annexed and also share with you how much I've enjoyed and how coherent I feel I am now that I'm enjoying all the services, the downtown, the schools, the reputation of the town of Los Gatos. And now I know that my taxes are going forth to support those services and what I appreciate and enjoy about the town of Los Gatos. Prior to the annexation, I was in the county, and I still enjoyed the downtown. I still enjoyed the reputation of the schools. I still enjoyed the community and all the events, but my taxes didn't support any of that. So I'm here to share with you, thank you for annexing us into Los Gatos. Also, I have done some construction myself, and I cannot compliment you, having gone through the county as well as now the town of Los Gatos, how cooperative, how easy, and how simple it was to get a second unit, to get re-roofed, to add some square footage to my residence. So I appreciate that, and I'm in support of the annexation.
Thank you. Wait just one moment, Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you. Just for the record, you said you cannot compliment us. Do you mean cannot compliment us enough?
It really was. All of the stories we heard about couldn't get things
It was a
approved.
positive experience.
It was wonderful. I'm
Okay.
glad to be a resident of town of Los
Thank you. Just
Gatos.
wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have? No. Carrie Perzo.
Hi. I want to be like Helen. I want to be part of Los Gatos, as you know. I'm just up here to say I really strongly support this annexation. I want my tax dollars to go towards the services that I'm already benefiting from. It's been a great experience to be part of the community, how we are today. We love Los Gatos and the downtown area, and it's getting better even as I speak with Bob Gilmore's shop coming in and some of the news stores that we're seeing. It's been great. So we want to be part of the community. We want this annexation to go through, and I really thank the support of our neighbors for coming in today, Helen, and supporting this effort. Oh, one more thing. I also want to say that I've been impressed with the amount of discussion that's gone on between LAFCO, your staff, and the county surveyor's office to make sure that everybody is in agreement and understands the implications of the annexation and that this island issue is addressed and thoroughly understood. It's been probably a year or two of discussions, and I feel that it's really thoroughly been worked. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. The last card I have, next to the last card I have is Velimir Sulik.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council and staff. My name is Velimir Sulic from Mason Sulic Engineers. I just want to make some clarification of what Mr. Kokinos brought up. The assessor's parcel number 557-17006, what is owned by the Mr. Hirsch and Mrs. Hirsch, it's in the city of San Jose. Clearly shows on the maps, on every map. How that happened some time ago, mistake, or overlooked by the city of San Jose or LAFCO, we don't know. But that assessor's parcel number, what they do own it, it says clearly in the city of San Jose, annexed by the annexation number 21. To the Mr. Lincoln was never part of this annexation. On every document our firm prepared, legal description, Mr. Lincoln was never part of this annexation. On exhibit, what was brought up was probably lapsus, honest mistake, in exhibit only. But this is a legal document what you're approving. And to the respect of the assessed value, the only people who are affected by this annexation can protest. And only the assessed value of members of this annexation has to match over the 50%. So in this case, it's only two persons or two property owners, Coquinos and Hirsch. They can only bring assessed values and protest only. That's according to the LAFCO and according to the process of annexations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me see if anyone has questions. And we do not. Thank you. And I do have one more card, and it's John Weidert.
Hi, my name is John Weidert. I live at 14065 Arnorich Road, and I'm here in support of the annexation this evening and also of the democratic process that we have going on here. And I've watched it all the way from the beginnings of the Greenbrier development petitions that came through here. I support what Mike and Lorraine have been able to come up and talk about in terms of their interest in not being involved in the annexation, and some of the rest of us are in favor of the annexation. And I think you have a very good, fair, and open process here in the town to enable everybody to have their say. But I'd very much like to be a formal part of the town, to be able to vote in its elections, and we do take advantage of all of the services that you have. So thanks for your time here this evening, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not spoken who would like to speak on this item, item number 9? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and turn to staff, first of all, for clarification on where we're at in terms of protests and any additional answers or information that we need to have based on the public testimony.
The documents submitted by Mr. Coquinos include 2 additional property owners in the protest. The property owners are the owners of the parcel located at 14090 Shannon Road. This brings the protest value up to 43.9%. It is less than 50. You could still approve the annexation.
To clarify for the mayor and council, I have separately reviewed the 2 documents submitted by Mr. Coquinos. They're the 2 property owners for a single parcel, which is the 14090 Arnorich Road. In that, I've calculated it twice. It takes the protest value to 43.85%, 43.9, as Ms. Savage mentioned.
Okay. Mrs. Spector.
Thank you. Staff, looking at what has been provided to us as Exhibit B, the new properties to which you just made reference, can you tell me which of either the numbers under the word courses or the names on the map, if either of those is on there?
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name, but the APN number is 537-17018, and it is the northernmost property.
537-17018?
Correct.
All right, thank you. I got it.
Council questions. Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From the speakers tonight, I heard 3 different issues. One, a couple of additional properties protesting, and I understand from staff that raised it to 43.9 below the 50. I heard about a missing lot number, and I heard from the surveyor, that lot number is not an issue because it's in San Jose, and I'd like confirmation from our own staff regarding that. And number 3, I heard discussion about two adjacent lots, same owner. One is proposed to be in the county, leaving the other one, one's proposed to be in the town, the other one being left, therefore, in the county. And the response I heard on that is that can happen, and it would be a future LAFCO case if the property owner so desired to have both properties in the town. And if I could get the staff position confirming or letting me know where we stand on those issues.
So just to confirm, there are two properties that would be split. They would be split between the town and the city of San Jose. Currently, they're split between the county and the city of San Jose. Those are one of the property owners that's protesting tonight. The second is not protesting. Staff was told by the county surveyor who reviews the legal maps prepared for the annexation that that does indeed occur on occasion. Like the applicant's surveyor mentioned, we don't know why that happened, where the mistake was, if it was a mistake, but the county surveyor did confirm that that can't be corrected through this process, but could be corrected with LAFCO after the annexation is approved by each individual property owner.
Thank you. And a follow-up, if I may, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. What I just heard you say was one of the properties is currently county and San Jose, and I'm assuming that's protesting. And when you did your calculation of protesting, I assume you used just that parcel that's in county and not the San Jose piece.
Correct.
Thank you.
And just for clarification from staff, we have the tax bills of that split parcel, but, well, never mind, I answered my own question. I figured it out. Okay, other questions of staff or discussion or motion? Vice Mayor Brzezinski?
I think this is a question of staff. So when Mr. Kokinas made his presentation to us tonight, he sent forward a number of what seemed to be errors in documentation that you've clarified already in some manner have been either rectified by a subsequent document that was presented us in a more recent meeting, or that the lots, the APN numbers as indicated, are not necessarily as significant as the fact that we've got a map that shows us where the annexation is to take place, and that sometimes juxtaposition of numbers would occur. I need to have a clarification, probably from staff and our attorney, just to validate that point, that with all of the data that was presented to us tonight, I want to make sure that we are not stepping into something down road that could be problematic for us if indeed there are conflicts that have been presented that can be validated. So could staff address that, please?
Mayor, members of the council, I have reviewed the documents submitted by Mr. Kokinas, and I'm just finishing my comparison with the staff documents. It appears to me through my review that the documents you've been given tonight do accommodate for the issues that Mr. Kokinas raised. Parcel 19, the one in the northernmost that was the subject of your prior discussion, is indeed not included in the annexation, so to call it missing on the handout you received tonight is irrelevant because it's not part of the annexation proposed for you tonight in the documents you've received. Second, he cites parcel 006 is missing, and that's not part of the annexation before you tonight either because it's not eligible for annexation given the prior decision made. And that parcel in particular is already between split jurisdictions. This would continue it just between one of the split different jurisdictions being a different one. So, and the valuation appears to be consistent and beneath the 50% threshold.
I appreciate that that analysis, and it makes me certainly comfortable to proceed with the rest of this this hearing with the sense that we are not actually facing some issues of a legal nature that we would be impacted with at a certain point in the future.
I think one more point to be made on the split parcels is that if you were to exclude the county portion of the split parcel, you'd be creating a county island, which is exactly the opposite goal of the annexation law.
Mr. Rice.
For staff, if I may, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm looking at Exhibit B, and from Exhibit B, I'm looking at 006 that isn't marked, and it appears to me to be in the town. and I see a dashed line that says, that's got a notation of existing city limits as established by Guadalupe number 21 annexation to the city of San Jose. So that's the boundary from the San Jose side from what I can read, but it looks to me like that little finger is 006 and is inside this annexation. Am I missing something?
Staff would like to put up another exhibit that would clarify this.
Please.
Exhibit B, in fact, does not include parcel 006. If you look at the assessor's map on the overhead, 006 is this sliver here. Parcel 005 includes the finger that's shown on your Exhibit B. So parcel 5 is this finger that's shown on your Exhibit B plus this hill-type shape parcel.
Thank you. That does clarify it.
Further questions of staff or discussion or a motion? Mr. Larson.
Mayor, may we have 1 moment on just verifying one of the parcels, please?
Yes.
Mayor, thank you for that moment. In reviewing the documents, I did identify one issue. I wanted, if you proceed with the annexation, if you look to the attachment to the staff report for this council meeting, that's the resolution 2010 to be numbered. And under the parcel numbers referenced in the title, as well as in the first whereas, there was a typographical error that, to clarify for the record, parcel number 31 is actually parcel 32, as indicated in your staff report under both the recommendation and the title. So that's the one corrective error I've identified. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
So, council, the question is, do you feel comfortable in moving ahead one way or the other with the information that we have? With the noted corrections, do you feel the need to continue this for any reason, to have corrected or more extensive information? What is your pleasure? Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
Well, Madam Mayor, I think it was very interesting, and it's been a very interesting process over time to deal with this annexation. And if we know that the intent of LAFCO is that we will coalesce urban service areas so that we do not have a diminished service, and diminished service is the result of county pockets or islands that exist in some ways out in no man's land. And so as a region, we are dedicated to attempt to bring better service to the members of the community who are the participants in this process. I also want to state that the LAFCO process is intended to allow majority rule, that the majority should have its say, the majority should have the opportunity to be able to achieve its ends, in this case, annexation to the town of Los Gatos. I appreciate the testimony of a number of our public tonight who have indicated clearly the values that they see in being part of this town. And I think those are values that all of us on the dais share. From the perspective of those who are not interested in annexation, I've often felt that it's not something that we want to drag someone kicking and screaming into our town limits. That's not of value to us. But in this case, if we acknowledge a minority in opposition to the majority position, then I think we are doing a disservice. And because of that, I will move to adopt the resolution, making the determinations and approving the reorganization of territory designated Arnerich number 2.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. And I'm assuming, Mr. Larson, that if residents have any specific questions, that they can contact staff tomorrow and work through all the details?
Correct. We will follow up with the Hirsches. They did send a note that Ms. Savage and I were looking at. They had not been notified previously. They were in the city of San Jose. We had based that on assessor information, and indeed, looking at the assessor parcel map, it does appear that part of their property is in the city of San Jose, so we will work with them on clarifying that with the county assessor's office.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10, which is reconsider decision denying an appeal of Planning Commission decision regarding 15928 Union Avenue. This is a little bit different type of item for us this evening, and we're going to have staff and the attorney help us work through this. We have we have a brief staff report, I believe, by Suzanne Davis from Planning.
Okay, the council considered an appeal of the Planning Commission decision on this property. It was a tentative map and architecture and site application for demolition of the existing residence. That was on October 20th. And at that time, the appeal was denied on a 3-2 vote. Council decided to reconsider the matter on December 7th, 2009. It was set for discussion on the December 21st agenda. We had a number of neighbors who requested a continuance since it was so close to the holidays, and that was granted, and the matter was continued to tonight's agenda. Council has 3 options this evening. One is to uphold the decision to deny the appeal. One is to remand the matter to the Planning Commission, either with or without direction to the Commission. And one is to grant the appeal and approve the architecture and site and subdivision applications. The State Subdivision Map Act has 7 findings. If any of those findings can be made, it is grounds for denial of a subdivision. So they work as a reverse finding. Instead of finding these things to support the application, if you can make any of these, it is denial of the map. We do have a comparison of the architecture and site versus subdivision processes and what is included in those two. If you'd like to see that, I have it on hand. Otherwise, I'm available if you have any questions.
Let's see if it comes up. So, thank you. We'll just know that that's available, but let's switch back to the other one. Keep the other one up. I think that's probably the one that'll get referred to the most often, if at all. So this is not a new public hearing. This is a continuation of the council discussion portion of the item the last time we talked about it. We do have the attorney that is available to help us work through any questions that we have, but council, the thought was to start with a discussion as to where each of us think that we are on the reconsideration. We will open it for public comment, not reopen the public hearing, but of course, we would always want to have the public have an opportunity to speak, and I do have a couple of cards here. So if you think this is something that you want to speak on tonight, please fill out a card, and you would have, as usual, up to 3 minutes. We've received quite a bit of correspondence, but no desk items this evening. Is that correct?
Correct. There were 2 letters that were received that were attached to the report you received.
And a whole lot previously. Okay. So council, first we will have our discussion of where we are on the reconsideration concept, and then we'll open it up for public. Anyone? Mr. Rice.
Since I kind of started this ball rolling, I guess, my intent and my desire with this application is to remand it back to planning with direction. And as we get further into the discussion, we can have that conversation about what, from my perspective, that direction would be. But that's the intent of why I requested the reconsideration in the first place.
And I don't know about other council members, but I would be curious now to hear what the direction is. I think the more specific we can be without actually taking an action, the easier it will be for public to respond or not.
Okay, so if you'd like me to do that now, I'm happy to. My concern with this application was that it was not really compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. I believe that fell under paragraph B, the general and specific plan consistency, in that the neighborhood as I define it when I look at that property is really defined by the houses immediately to the, I guess it's the north, along both Union Avenue and Panorama Drive, Panorama Way, I think it is, sorry, and not the subdivision to the south on the cul-de-sac, nor across Union Avenue. So without specifics as to how many lots that could be subdivided into, my main concern was that which we had before us in the original application was not compatible with that neighborhood as I defined it, and I believe as a couple of other council members defined it as well, but they can have that conversation themselves, and that I would like to see something that is more compatible with that neighborhood.
Sorry, thank you. Other council? Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you. If I may, through the mayor, a question just so I understand Mr. Rice a little more. For me, one of the biggest issues has been the number of lots and coming onto a cul-de-sac and fronting on the main road. And I look at this and I look at the review back the discussion we had last time and pages and pages of papers we now have, and it seems to me that the idea of the 3 lots is an appropriate one, giving the court at the end, through the mayor, if I may, if this is the right time or after public, whatever you wish, I wanted to understand from Mr. Rice the purpose of going back to Planning Commission. And I guess I didn't fully hear the number of lots as being a Planning Commission issue.
I'm not sure that Mr. Rice, did you understand his statement? Because I got lost there.
I got lost about halfway through.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'll summarize it and I'll say reason for going back to the Planning Commission to me is uncertain, since I don't see the number of lots as being an issue for them at this point in this process.
I'm confused, Mr. White, because that's the point of the issue, is the number of lots.
Okay, I'll try and word it differently. I understood Mr. Rice suggesting remanding this to the Planning Commission with direction. And what I'm trying to understand is what direction do we want to give Planning Commission? Is it that council is uncertain at 3 lots or 4 lots? What is the purpose for sending it back to the Planning Commission?
And maybe staff perhaps might want to jump in, because we might be getting ourselves in a muddle. So let me give it a little try, and then you correct me. Okay. The proposal, the appeal that was before us was for a 3-lot subdivision. And we denied that, and therefore, it's dead. If we make the final determination tonight, which is one of our three options. The idea of reconsideration to go back to the Planning Commission reopens the conversation of 2 lots or 3 lots in a different configuration than what we had been presented.
Thank you.
Can I?
That's fine.
Yeah, this is our time to discuss, so go ahead, Mr.
So we only had one design of a 3 lots to look at.
Okay.
I hope that's not me. It is? Nope, not me. So the design of the 3 lots that we saw, I felt was not neighborhood compatible with the neighborhood. Now, we have some drawings that came in this packet that we can't vote on these tonight anyway. Whatever this is, to be redesigned, I believe, has to go back to planning, correct, for the subdivision?
Yeah,
Well, it certainly raises that issue because of notice and opportunity to be heard on that design. Right. And also, generally, when you reverse a planning commission decision, which was to deny 3 lots, under certain circumstances, the town policy is to refer it back. But as stated by you additionally, Mr. Rice, I mean, the idea is that you were only presented one design. Now you have 2 additional designs that may be more consistent with the general plan.
Right, and they may not be. I'm not going to pass judgment on those tonight because that's not what we're here for. My belief is that this should have been fleshed out more at the planning commission level before it came to us. It came to us as a 7-0 vote to deny. I think it was 7-0, a unanimous vote to deny. And they appealed the denial. And I'm wondering if, because it was a specific design, if we could not send it back to planning with direction saying, here's the neighborhood, here's how we define this, whatever it may be. I'm sure you're going to get some direction from other members of the council, but the mayor asked for mine. My first thought is, here's what I define as a neighborhood, here's what I think it has to be compatible with. If the applicant can come up with something that appeases or pleases the planning commission, and then that comes to us with a positive recommendation, fine. If not, and the applicant chooses to appeal it again, then we'll vote on a different design. I think this was going to come back to us one way or another, whether it was a new application or we do it this way. I felt it was more expeditious, and I may have been wrong, to remand it back.
Let's see if other council members have anything that they want to comment on. Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, as you know, I was on the 2 side of the 3-2 vote, but my position was that I did not feel that the findings for the MAP Act were appropriate or adequate from the Planning Commission, and I didn't feel that the council's motion then to deny the appeal was based on those things that seemed to me to be fairly clear from the MAP Act. The Planning Commission found 3 that would deny the project. They only needed to find 1, but they found 3. But I think in each case, there was some question about the validity of their findings. My position is that the issues of neighborhood compatibility need to be addressed, and that the delineation of neighborhood as only those properties that exist north of the subject property count as this neighborhood. When you look at our residential design guidelines and most of the issues that we have focused on in terms of neighborhood compatibility, and it's inclusive of a 360-degree arc, or circle in that case, which would include the properties that have been indicated as isolated from the neighborhood because they sit on a berm with a wall in between the subject property and that residential cul-de-sac. I found it interesting as I was looking back again at the documentation that from my perspective, I have not seen anything that calls into question my initial reaction related to the MAP Act. I think this is legal, and it is, as a government of law, we must sustain those things that our laws call out for us. And in this particular case, I think that we can't justify that. Now, lots of issues would be addressed at architecture and site. In fact, to me, that's where the issues that have been raised by those who are in opposition to this project, those questions need to be raised in that forum. I do not see the legality of this being by law only two lots given the actual square footage. So I stand on that, and what I hear Councilman Rice saying is that there was new information presented to us in which there were alternative proposals made that weren't privy to the earlier discussion, really cannot be discussed tonight, but from the point of view of an interest in seeing if there is some evaluation to be made of this by the Planning Commission, I certainly would support a motion that would send it back to the Planning Commission. But the idea that I would want to see is that we take a look at how we have denied the MAP Act on the basis of the data that was presented by the Planning Commission and then reinforced by the Council.
Mrs. Spector, did you want to weigh in at this particular point?
I know, I think it would be much better to hear what the testimony will be before I weigh in on it. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't I go ahead and, again, this isn't a public hearing, it's just public comment. I only have 2 cards, but more are on their way. Citizen Ray, why don't you go ahead and get started while the rest of the cards come up. I have your card here. And if anyone else does want to speak, it would be really helpful if I had the cards sooner rather than later, rather than them trickling in. Also, I do have a note that KCAT thinks that annoying screech, which apparently has gone away for a moment, might be from a cell phone, so this would be a good time to make sure that all of our cell phones are off. And if it reappears, then we'll know.
Yes, indeed. I want to tell you, I've been coming down here every meeting for 10 years. It's always the same. We've got a certain number of the town council who will pass anything where there's a dollar bill involved for the town, okay? Tax money, if you cannot believe it. And the 2 here are Josephine Przinski and Diane McClump, public prostitutes. They sit on this council in order to prostitute the land use laws of the city of town of Los Gatos, okay? Because the dollar bill is all they care about. And they'll put a spin, this guy Przinski puts a spin on everything he says to reach that effect. Bring in more bucks. And to hell with the neighborhood, to hell with the people, to hell with American democracy. It is so ugly, I'm getting to the point where I can't stand it anymore. Ugly! Uglier than sin. And there's I thought Mr. Rice, he ran on his grandfather's ticket, okay? I thought the grandson of a former mayor of the town of Los Gatos would stand up for the public interest, okay? Stand up for we the people. And so I'm a bit disappointed that you've taken this matter to reconsideration and given the public prostitutes here an opportunity to change the outcome. Very disappointed. Mr. Rice, if you go along and you join these prostitutes, we will label you third public prostitute. okay? So be careful. In my opinion, you're like this, okay? Don't let us put you down. Don't let us assign an appropriate nickname or whatever as a reward for your failure to stand up for the land use laws of the town of Los Gatos, the town code, all the positive things that are here. Don't put a spin on it. That's what I hear, okay? Spinmeisters, public prostitutes, peepees, absolute peepees. Don't smile, Brzezinski. You're ugly and American. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Kirsten Powell is next.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. My name is Kirsten Powell from Logan and Powell. I'm here on behalf of the residents of Panorama Way, Union Avenue, and Cambrian View who are here tonight. I just asked them to stand in opposition to this project as proposed with 3 lots. I submitted a letter to you outlining in detail their opposition to this project, and I just want to focus on a few items tonight. We do agree with what Mr. Rice said. We think that this project needs to be more compatible with the neighborhood, but we believe the only way that can happen is with 2 lots, not 3 lots. With 3 lots, this project is trying to put too much on too narrow of a parcel. No matter how the lines are drawn, how the parcels are sliced, it still will be too much on too little. Pursuant to the government code, as you pointed out, there are findings that have to be made that, if made, must deny the project, and we believe that there are 3 that must be made in this case. This project, as proposed, is inconsistent with the general plan of the town. The site is not physically suitable for the density, and the site is not physically suitable for this type of development. As outlined in my letter, there are 3 areas that we would like you to focus on, which we don't think will change no matter how the lines are drawn. That is, you must maintain the existing residential neighborhoods by controlling development. And to do so, the town's general plan calls upon you to ensure that the project type and intensity of the land use is consistent with the immediate neighborhood. And as Mr. Rice said previously, we believe that immediate neighborhood is Panorama Way, Union Avenue, and not the project of Leawood Court that is physically separated from the site as outlined in your resolution. So there is no way to change this project with 3 lots that would change that inconsistency with the surrounding neighborhood. The development on Panorama Way and Union Avenue is the rectilinear orientation that we have outlined in the letter, and that cannot be changed by putting 3 lots on this parcel. You just can't fit those 3 parcels on here and make it consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. In addition, it's inconsistent with your community design element, as we outlined, because it basically is creating abrupt changes in scale and density, which is prohibited by the element, and it does not harmonize and blend in with the surrounding neighborhood. So again, we would ask that you deny this project. You do not remand it back to the Planning Commission, because there is no way to make 3 lots fit on this parcel and be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is John Schwartz.
Good evening, Mayor McNutt, members of the council. My name is John Schwartz. I live at 104 Panorama Way. And as someone who in my other daily life is involved in this business arena, you know, one thing that I absolutely hate is when neighbors say, the council didn't listen to me. The council's in the developer's pocket. Those comments drive me crazy, because most of the time that's not the case. People really in this town and in other jurisdictions try to make good, fair, reasoned decisions. And based on my experience, that's the case. But the fact is, many members of the public do not have a lot of confidence in this public process. And in this case, you have a neighborhood that has been very calm, very focused, very rational, and I think very intelligent and specific with the arguments and the points that we have raised in our ongoing hearings. From the neighborhood standpoint, the review of the prior three-lot subdivision that you saw was a fair decision. You considered the project and decided it wasn't appropriate, and I won't rehash the reasons again, but really the findings and the rationale that were used to deny it would apply, as Kirsten just said, to any three-lot subdivision we could dream up for this parcel. The site is not physically suitable, and as we've stated numerous times, the town's general plan and codes show evidence of that. My fear is that by deciding to reopen this because there may be other incarnations of this proposal is going to make people feel like the cards really are stacked against them. There really is no way to overcome this because we could look at a million iterations of this project. But again, I believe, as most of the neighbors here do, any three-lot version just doesn't fit. It doesn't meet the town's general plan. So I would ask that you stand by the decision you made previously and not go through a process that it doesn't seem like any of us really understand what the point of going back to the commission is. So, and I would also like to remind you that in prior testimony at the Planning Commission meetings and city and town council meetings, the applicant did mention that the incarnation you saw before was the most compatible with the neighborhood. So now we're hearing that there are other versions that are better, and I don't agree. So thank you. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Lynott.
Stephanie Line at 15910 Union Avenue. I'm just wanted to concur with everything that has been said tonight. I can't bring up anything new. I just don't want to see Leawood become the justification for three lots. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Jeans.
Tony Jeans, 170 Station Street, Los Gatos. The reason I sent this to you was that the map on the top is similar to an overhead that I showed you at the original hearing, where I said I did not go with this particular subdivision because I felt I could do better. And I ended up with one that you felt was not better because it was gave too much of the appearance of a flag lot, and a 3-2 vote determined that. What I did, though, was showed this to you. This has never been seen by the Planning Commission, which is why it is new information, which I think justifies being able to send it back down to the Planning Commission based on new information. What I'm interested in is pursuing a little bit further the rationale as to why density and site suitability would not be applicable in this instance, and if you would like to deliberate on that, would be wonderful help for me. Density allows 4 lots on this by size. I can understand why the site suitability was an issue when I tried to present a flag-type lot situation, which I'm sure gave you a lot of concern. However, almost every cul-de-sac in the town of Los Gatos terminates with a cul-de-sac. Every dead-end street terminates with a cul-de-sac with a pie configuration. I'm going back to a pie configuration because I don't want to be turned down because I'm trying to get too clever and present something that, whereas it might give better views of the hills to the neighbors, it's less compatible in the general scheme of the neighborhood. So what I would take back, if you remand it, I would take back to the Planning Commission the pie configuration that I showed you as an overhead at the last meeting, but I would also ask them to consider slight modifications where I can widen from the 30 feet allowable to 40 or so feet at the frontage and maybe give a little bit better lot configuration on the back end. That's not something that I expect you to deliberate on. I haven't showed that to you. It wasn't at the hearing. But that's probably what I'm going to go to them to ask, to say dead-end street, pie configuration is every is standard in Los Gatos, but I'd like to try and improve it a little more if possible. I do not understand why density was ever an issue. I'd like some clarification as to how density would be in this case, and also site suitability, whether you think the top one, which is all you've seen from the past public hearing, would be suitable, and help give me direction so that I can modify a design if it's appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Jeans. Jeff Mitchell. And if anyone else has a card, could you please turn it in? Not anymore. I think we've got everyone else in the audiences.
Jeff Mitchell, 115 Panorama Way. Good evening, Mayor McNutt and honorable council members. First off, I'm going to be brief. I don't have any slides or presentations this time. I want to say that I support the findings of Logan and Powell. I do believe that the neighborhood is Panorama Way and Union Avenue, and it is not Leawood and Lassoon Courts, and that the property is only suitable for a subdivision of 2. I want to take the opportunity just to remind the council members that you have been given historical documents and evidence dating back to as early as 1998 showing Planning Commission directive for this lot to be a 2-lot subdivision. There are people who have testified, including Louise, one of our neighbors. The Building Works, the company that actually constructed the property between Cambrian View and Blossom Hill, inquired in writing as to the suitability of this lot for development, and they were told that it should be a 2-lot subdivision, not 3. In fact, they built the 2 homes currently on Cambrian View Way and Blossom Hill after requesting the ability to build 3 and being denied and given only 2. That lot is an identical rectangular shape. It is an identical neighborhood with large and small rectangular neighborhoods extending from it, and it's a larger lot. Those documents, by the way, are on file. They're public record, and they are in packets that have been provided to the Planning Commission and the Town Council. So bottom line is if the Town Council does not uphold the Planning Commission's findings of 7-0, then we're going to find ourselves back here again, and we're going to do this all over. So tonight seems kind of like the night to stop this. If it goes back to Planning Commission for 3 and it's denied, the builder's going to come back. And if it's approved, we're going to come back. So I believe firmly that the unanimous Planning Commission denial should be upheld. I think all of the evidence and laws clearly indicate that the only suitable use of this lot would be a subdivision of 2, keeping in harmony with a pattern of 5 consecutive rectangles, small and large, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I gave my kids a workbook at school, a glance, and I saw something that said, repeat the pattern of these oranges lined up, of 2 oranges, they'd draw 2 oranges. They wouldn't draw 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Orv Busing.
Good evening. I'm Orv Busing. I reside at 15892 Union Avenue. I'd just like to ask the council to uphold your decision to deny the appeal of the Planning Commission decision to subdivide the property into 3 lots that was made in November.
Thank you, sir. Ian Esche.
Good evening, all. My name is Ian Esche. I live at 107 Panorama Way. I did want to come out and support my neighbors who have testified here, but also we are pretty united in our positioning on what is suitable to the neighborhood. I think one of the, I don't want to say axes I have to grind, but there's been this very specific dicing, if you will, parsing of Panorama Way neighborhood, Leawood Court neighborhood, and Union. And what I would like to really impress on people to open up is realize that Panorama Way and the neighborhood that runs along to Kensington, say, off of Ann Way, is also very, very similar to Panorama Way. It's not like we're an island to ourselves. Leawood Court is very much like an island, although you have neighbors that are here from Leawood Court. I'm not dissing your neighborhood, by the way, that are also against the development, the 3-lot development. So I would like everybody to not be so myopic about looking at Panorama Way as this little political force unto itself. The neighborhood extends much farther than just Panorama Way. And that's it. I really have nothing else to say.
Is Kensington the street immediately to your east?
No, Kensington is about 4 streets to our east.
Oh, okay. You were talking about
It is a broader, we are the first house, the first street in.
Of a series.
Of that
right.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
yes.
Got it. Thank you. This may or may not be the last card. Tom Mangano.
Yeah, Tom Mangano, 112 Panorama Way. I want to voice my support for Logan and Powell, what they said. They pretty well summarized what needs to be said. I've spent a lot of time looking at minutes and videos the last couple weeks, and I feel that your resolution of 11-2 was the proper resolution, and I would ask that you do not renege on your 3-2 majority vote and pass that resolution. I'd just like to talk to some of you council members individually. I applaud Councilman Spector for her stance on 2 lots. Mr. Rice, I respectably still don't understand your position. I feel that the resolution, if you feel that the applicant is being harmed by not remanding it back, then I think a simple amendment to the resolution of sending it back to the commission without him paying fees would be fine. Then I would possibly understand your position. Mr. Wasserman, you stated in the 11-2 meeting you didn't want to slough back this proposal back to ANS and the council meeting. I'm sorry, the commission. And I feel what's happening tonight, if you vote for this, you are sloughing it back. I think the 2 or 3 issue is significant. It ought to be addressed here because it's going to come back if not. Mr. Brzezinski, I wasn't going to talk to you, but I thought it was very ironic that you talked about majority rules in the previous motion because apparently majority rule doesn't apply here for you. It was 3-2. And I don't see how you can say on one hand majority rules and on another hand it doesn't. So sometimes you make up your own rules too. So again, in closing, I'd ask you to support the neighborhood, support your planning commission, and if you do remand this back, please give guidance. If you don't give guidance, the applicant is not going to do anything different than submit what he's already showing you, which came way after the fact of the 11-2 meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangano. I have no further, thank you. I have no further cards. So we'll close the public comment portion and we're back to council. And just to remind you once again, we don't have a slide of these options, do we? No, we don't. We do? Oh, good. Let me just go through the options one more time. So our options tonight are to vote on the previous action and uphold the decision to deny the appeal, to remand it back to Planning Commission with or without direction, or to do a total reversal and grant the appeal, and I didn't hear anybody talking about that as an option tonight. Mr. Rice, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to, from a disclosure perspective, since the meeting in December, I have met with the applicant and have met with a number of the neighbors as well.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any disclosures? Mrs. Spector?
Yes, I met with Stephanie Lynott.
I too.
Mr. Brzezinski?
I too met with Ms. Lynott.
Mr. Wasserman? No disclosures. And I meant to, but I got sick instead, so I had nothing to disclose. Okay, back to the matter at hand. So, Council, what's your pleasure? Mr. Rice?
I'll move that we remand, got to find the number here, it wasn't on the front. I can't say it. Oh, APN 527-42-008, the subdivision application for 15928 Union Avenue back to Planning Commission for further review in light of new information that was given at the council meeting.
And do you want to see if you get a second before you discuss that, whether that's with or without direction?
That's where I was headed.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Rice, did you want to comment on the direction?
Yeah, I'd like to send it back with direction. And if you'd like my direction.
Why don't you see your direction, see if the seconder agrees with your direction?
My direction is that the neighborhood compatibility issue should focus on primarily, I won't say exclusively, I will say primarily, Panorama and Union as the neighborhood, for the benefit of the applicant who specifically requested information on perspectives of density and site suitability. I think that density is less of a concern to me, not that I'm approving it as 3 or 2, I'll be real clear on that, but that the neighborhood compatibility is really the issue there, and I'll get to that in a second. To something that Vice Mayor Brzezinski said, where a lot of these issues would really be dealt with at ANS, my concern was what we saw from a subdivision perspective that we had to vote on at the time in November, December, was that the layout of the lots would have required certain architectural characteristics of the houses that would ultimately be built there. And that's where I was uncomfortable. I also want to speak to the neighbor's concern of the all rectangular lots going up the street. While I think that's an issue, however, every other street that ends in a cul-de-sac does have some that move around the cul-de-sac. So I'm not expecting, nor would I direct the Planning Commission that what goes on that lot needs to fit that specific pattern.
Seconder, any comment? Or are you standing pat?
I'm going to make sure I understand what I'm seconding here. With regard to the further direction that the neighborhood is focusing on Panorama and Union as the neighborhood, I agree with that. He's not directing the Planning Commission specifically to a 3 or 2. I agree with that. And then the last portion about he's not directing the Planning Commission specifically as to the configuration of the lots as they go around the cul-de-sac. I agree with that. I'm not saying that they should be one way or the other. So if that's what the wide open door you're giving them, I'm cool with that.
I'm fine.
Okay. Other council comments? Mr. Wasserman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to be supporting this motion because I don't like the first choice and I don't like the third choice, and that leaves the second choice. The problem I have is the direction we're giving the Planning Commission is basically the direction they gave when we started this thing, and we didn't give them direction. They gave the applicant direction to go from 4 to 3. We did not give the Planning Commission direction prior to the first time before the Planning Commission saying what was the neighborhood. And again, we're not giving them direction on exactly what's the neighborhood. We did not give them direction on 2, 3, or 4. And again, we're not giving them direction 2, 3, and 4. So this project is not yet right. What we have before us, we cannot vote on tonight. So the appropriate thing to do is to continue it and work out as many bugs as we can. And the way we do that is send it back to the Planning Commission. And I want to thank the Planning Commission in advance for what they're undertaking, because I think they're going to be confused as to what direction we're giving them. But I think of those 3 choices, as I understand, are our choices, Ms. Davis. Number 2 is the only one that I'm comfortable with.
Mrs. Spector?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For clarification and amplification, we now have, because people have been raising the issue of why are you doing what you're doing, and what is the rationale for one thing or the other. Let's take it to its simplest component. What we have now, we the council have now before us, is new information. The new information that we have that has never been considered by the Planning Commission is the new design. And so by virtue of our policies, our ordinances, and that new information, this needs to be remanded, this application needs to be remanded back to the Planning Commission. That's our rules, that's our law, that's our policy. So that's why it's going back there. If we didn't have new information, if we didn't have a new design, then I would have absolutely no problem saying that we should vote to keep our resolution, that we should vote to keep our resolution because I agree we are a council of law, and that we had facts, as the Planning Commission did, to verify that this application, the old application, did not comply with 3 portions of the government code, did not comply with the general plan in 2 sections, as again the Planning Commission pointed out, and as I think it was the neighbors pointed out today. So we don't have the resolution before us because we have no information, so it needs to go back to the Planning Commission. The reason I am comfortable with the maker of the motion's motion is because he's not limiting it to 3. It could have 2. It's up to the Planning Commission. I look for the Planning Commission's guidance. I find it very, very helpful. And so I am looking forward to what the Planning Commission does, what the Planning Commission says. And one of the other council member mentioned, well, I don't understand why we're doing what we're doing because it's still 3, but it's a different 3. They may not choose to use the 3, but this is a different 3. And why is it different? One is because the configurations of the lots is different. Another one is because it doesn't have that flag lot type of approach. Does that mean the Planning Commission will say, cool, we're going to go with 3? I don't know. But that's going to be their opportunity, and as some council members here think, their challenge, but that's also their job.
And we pay them so well. Just like us, yeah. Did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Brzezinski.
And I would like to say, in supporting the motion, that this is appropriate, that it goes back to the Planning Commission, because of the fact that I think that there is some unfinished business that requires a greater analysis of the MAP Act with good staff advisement to the Planning Commission with our attorney to help clarify whether this assumption and the decision regarding the 3 findings is accurate. One of the things about majority rule is that we don't just count hands in the air in a council meeting to make determination of the direction of travel. If there are laws or rules, or if there are issues that we feel are more applicable in a particular case, then we have to go with our judgment on that. If it were only a matter of hands in the air, then it would be simple. Take a poll at the door, and that's the decision. But it's not that way, and that's why this community is as strong as it is. As far as the issue of where the commission is directed, I think that we've given sufficient leeway so that they can use their own judgments and intelligence. But I, as a council member, should this return to us, will be very focused on the rationale for the decision and the findings. And I will be extremely rigorous in my analysis of whether or not I judge those findings are accurate. We can pull all kinds of language from the general plan and then use that language to justify a particular point of view. But we also know that the general plan has language that can be used to actually present an alternative point of view. So my issue will be, as we see this again, should it come before us from the Planning Commission, my issue will be to thoroughly analyze the structure of the discussion and the analysis done by the Planning Commission, so that we understand more clearly the intentions and the focus that's given.
Thank you. Thank you. Does council have anything else that they would like to comment on? Okay, we'll go ahead and take the vote. Do we need the motion repeated, or is everyone clear on it? Apparently they're clear. All right, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and its issue is remanded back to the Planning Commission. Our remaining pieces of business this evening are the two consent items that were pulled for discussion. And Mr. Davis, you wanted to talk about the investment report, so why don't you come forward? And council, remember that we have a desk item too. We still do have business to conduct, so if we can be quiet on the way out. Thank you. We have a desk item on item number 5 before we get to that one again.
Yes. I wanted to bring to your attention what I believe is a very significant problem in the way we, the people, are being kept informed by the new, we elected a town treasurer before. And now she no longer has that title. She's an employee, okay? And, you know, every council meeting or so, we always had a report from the town treasurer, the same woman, Spiker, as to what was going on, okay? And one of the key elements of those reports was the amount of money in what I call the slush fund by the town council, okay? The employees, Mr. Larson and company, dubbed it the designated reserve. Designated reserve, okay? A reserve that was solely at the discretion of the town council as to how it's to be spent. If that isn't a slush fund, I don't know what is. And I tell you, that slush fund 4 months ago had a reported value of $20 million. I haven't seen anything since then as to what's happened to the slush fund. Did you spend it all? What's happened to it? Where is it? It's Los Gatos. Lost Gatos. People are kept in the dark by Brzezinski and McLump, typically, okay? And they put a spin on everything. Spinmeisters. Ugly. Where is the slush fund? How much is it now? Come on, Brzezinski. I dare you to tell us. I dare you to make sure American democracy is warm and fuzzy in Los Gatos. I dare you. You're never going to do it because that's not your style. You're running for a fourth term. A fourth term! Does American democracy die behind lack of term limits? Of course. Joe Brzezinski is a case in point. 4 times he's going to run for re-election, and he will be elected because Los Gatos is lost. They haven't got, the town of Los Gatos hasn't got a clue about what to do about incumbents.
Mr. Davis, your time is up.
Yeah.
Mr. Larson, would you like to do 2 things? Would you like to explain to the public where they can find complete and accurate information on both the town budget and our investment accounts, and also perhaps give us 2 or 3 of the 100 reasons why that's not a slush fund?
Correct. Mayor, members of the council, indeed, the town does not have a slush fund, or if we did have a slush fund in our records, it would have $0 allocated to it. So there is no slush fund. All of the town's financial informations and budget documents are available on the web and through town offices. And in fact, at your next meeting on February 16th, we'll be bringing our annual financial report for your review and approval. The Finance Committee has already reviewed that, and it's coming to you next. Our designated reserve, which is common for most organizations, includes those funds that the council had previously set aside for specified uses. A good example is the $6 million that the council had set aside from the county's acquisition of land for development and acquisition of a sports facility, which is underway. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move on item number 3?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Our second consent item pulled was item number 5 because of the desk item. Are you speaking on that also? No. Okay. So any questions or motion?
I'll move approval of item number 5 as amended in the desk item, or corrected in the desk item.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And this meeting is adjourned.